This is more for the audio of the video. It doesn't really
Me,
carry.
so me tapping,
Project-
tapping the microphone, everybody just heard it online. So
I'm
sorry.
They should. No, I don't have my phone in,
Testing.
but it doesn't really magnify our voices in here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I just, you guys are good.
Alright.
Or at least some of you are, was working.
Well, lacking a presiding officer, I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6:30. Okay. Ally, can we do a roll call, please?
Yes. Melissa Petrie,
Here.
Dwayne Berta,
Present.
Brian Coltier,
Here.
Ann Shank,
Here.
Wes Weber.
Here,
All right, so we will move to election of officers, and then once a chair is elected, I'm gonna let that person take over. So do we have a motion?
Yes, I would like to nominate Wes to be the chairperson for this commission.
I would second that motion.
Okay, discussion? Okay. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Any opposed?
I would also like to nominate Brian for advice.
Second.
So vice, no, I do apologize, vice happens after the chair is elected, nominated, and sits, and they will
Oh.
start the discussion on vice.
Well,
Okay.
guess do you accept?
I do.
All right, we will have you scoot on down to the chair seat. if you don't mind.
I'll help.
So you've already called the meeting to order. So we need a roll call.
She already did it.
We already did that. We need
So-
approval of the previous,
No,
we need
you-
approval of the agenda.
Not yet, not until we do the
We
vice.
elect the vice chair first on this agenda.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do I need to redo it?
So.
No.
We need to vote though.
Well, I need to redo the nomination.
For vice, I think, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
I would like to nominate Brian for the vice chair position.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Oh, sorry. That was you.
So, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Carries.
We're all gonna chime in. You should have liked the secretary too under.
We already
Oh, I
did
didn't know.
secretary.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I didn't know if that already happened. Sorry.
Guilty as charged.
Say again, Ally, what did Ally say? We have
That we
it,
already have a secretary.
and that is,
Dwayne Berta.
very well. So now the ZBA board is officially seated. And we need to move on to the approval of tonight's, we need to approve the meeting minutes from the last regular meeting, which was a year ago.
Yeah. I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Support. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. So that will move us to E1,
No, D.
D, public comments. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we will move to E1. Nicholas and Jessica Kane, 48 Rosemary Street, fence requirements to approve the following variance requested by Nicholas and Jessica Kane at 48 Rosemary Street from section 7-15.03 fences and walls to permit a 6-foot tall privacy fence in the front yard with a 2-foot setback from the existing sidewalk where a 3.5-foot tall decorative fence located along the property line is otherwise permitted because it meets all standards in section 7-22.04E. Now, before we move on, I would like to ask a point of inquiry from our city attorney. This is, I understand, a public hearing
That's
with
correct, Mr. Chair.
respect to this, and can you instruct me so far as to how this will proceed event by event in the public hearing? And
Absolutely, Chair. Generally, you would have a motion to open the public hearing for the variance request. By law, ordinance, and statute, there is a public hearing. So there, for everybody's benefit, variances require notices to be, number one, published in the paper so that everybody knows about it, and then notices to be mailed to everyone within 300 feet. Now, all those people have the opportunity to comment at the public hearing. Unlike the public comment section, the public hearing is focused solely on this issue. So it's an opportunity for the applicant, anybody else from the public, to make comments. I frankly have seen it done both ways, where you would have the planner available to talk about his report during the hearing, although that can also happen a little bit after the hearing during the discussion part.
so the public hearing is now. The public comments are with respect to the public hearing once we have a motion to begin it, or this is to schedule a public hearing?
You know, you're having the hearing now, is
Yeah.
my understanding. So you'll make a motion to open the public hearing, and then once it's done, we'll make a motion to close.
Public hearing.
So can we get a motion
Yeah,
to,
I'll move to open the public hearing at 6:38 PM.
I'll second it.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And so we've opened the public hearing. And so the next event would be public comment with respect to this?
Or applicant comment, public comment, this would be your time.
Yes, just state your name and
My name is Nick. I have a house at 47 Rosemary Street in Lapeer. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time and giving your consideration. Again, my name is Nick, and my family and I recently moved into our home here in Lapeer. We have been welcomed by many of our neighbors in the community that has made us feel truly at home. Many of our neighbors have stopped by, introduced themselves, and expressed how happy they are to see a younger generation investing in the property, maintaining it, and making improvements to the neighborhood. We are requesting a variance to allow a 6-foot fence along the side of our corner lot property. Our goal is very simple: to create a safe and secure area for our family. We have children and dogs. We would like to establish a dedicated dog run that allows us to keep our pets safely contained in our property and separate from where our children play. Because of our property is located on a corner lot at the entrance of our subdivision, we face unique circumstances that many interior lots do not. There is increased traffic volume, pedestrian traffic, dog walkers, neighborhood activity that makes the secure fenced area especially important to us. We own a very large Doberman that can definitely be reactive towards other dogs, cats, and squirrels. While she is very well cared for and under our full control, we take responsibility as pet owners seriously and want to be able to ensure she remains safely contained on our property. A properly enclosed 6-foot privacy fence would allow us to prevent any unwanted interactions with pets being walked through the neighborhood while providing a safe, controlled environment for our dogs. This condition was not created by us. It is simply the result of the property's location and layout. Because of the corner lot restrictions, we are unable to install fencing needed to safely use in this area without a proper variance from you guys. A shorter fence would not provide the same level of security or containment needed for our intended purpose. We believe the proposed fence will be an attractive and well-maintained improvement to our property and not negatively impacting our neighbors or obstruction of traffic, visibility, or changes to characteristic of the neighborhood. Instead, will help us continue investing in our home, improving safely for our family and our pets, as well as our neighbors and anyone who passes through the subdivision. We are committed to being good neighbors and responsible homeowners, and we respectfully ask you for your approval of this variance. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Is there any further public comment with respect to the hearing? Seeing none, I'm going to point of inquiry back to Mr. Francis, and what is the next?
You take a motion to close the public hearing, Mr. Chair?
So I'll move, if hearing none, I'll move to, close public hearing at 6:41 PM.
Second.
Point of inquiry, when are we going to be able to have open discussion on this issue?
Now,
Okay, after we close the public
Yep.
hearing?
and you can still inquire from the planner questions if you have them. This was just the time for the public to
Very well.
input, but now would be the time if the board has questions for the planner or ask the planner to give a presentation.
So before we close the public hearing, I have some questions for the planner.
It could be after the public.
Very
hearing,
well,
too.
let's close it then.
Yeah.
Guys, are you,
Yeah, that's,
If I can I just point, if I understand, when we close the public hearing, then it's our opportunity to question and get different definitions
Yeah.
of how it should be.
Absolutely, and I would indicate too, the public hearing is just a time for the general public. Once you're in after the public hearing, even if there's questions for the applicant, it's fair after that point in time.
Okay,
In addition to the planner, so that would, but if someone were to come in, that isn't related to this matter, it's past the time for them to speak.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
thank you, Mr. Francis.
You're welcome.
So we have a motion and we have a seconded motion to close the public hearing. We're ready for a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
point of inquiry. In the past, I'm not criticizing or anything, but in the past, I didn't think that we had to make a motion to open or close the hearing. Are we supposed to?
I think it's cleaner.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
In the reason, just for further explanation, is if you don't, and someone comes in a half hour, is the hearing still open or not open?
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. I will also add that typically the way I've seen it in the past too, is you would open and close the public hearing, but under new businesses where you'd actually take the action, and that's where we would have the open dialogue with the planner. I don't see that on this agenda this evening, but that's maybe moving forward how we should have it laid out.
I agree, there would, if I may, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there generally would be an action item associated with the public hearing. And
Yeah.
that's not even to say that couldn't be postponed if you needed more information, but that would be, and I think that was the intent here, probably to fall under other business. It would be when this action item comes up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I've seen it everywhere else.
Yes, you don't vote inside the public hearing, so it's gotta be somewhere else.
The public hearing is now closed. And we are moving on to, again, a point of inquiry. The next thing is that we discuss this.
Well, your agenda doesn't have that, you're now on to F, under business. What I would suggest is we move to add an action item to consider the variance request. I would add it frankly as action item F1 and move the bylaws to action item F2.
So I would like to just point out, we're following planning commission's typical agenda progression. So yes, a motion is made at the end of the public hearing to approve or deny a request.
Okay.
It's not typically called out as a separate action item in the agenda or agenda packet.
I'd like to make a motion to add an F1 agenda item under other business and move the existing F1 to F2 so that the ZBA board can discuss the particulars of this specific request.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Makes sense.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. So motion carries, and now we can discuss this particular request from the Kings.
I just would like our planner to give his presentation? Do you have one?
Yes.
Okay, I would just like to see his first before we do our discussion.
Do we need to make a motion?
No, cause he
Okay,
usually,
we're good.
that's usually first, isn't it usually? Right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
So as mentioned, we have a variance request from the applicant tonight from section 7-15.03 to permit a 6-foot tall privacy fence in the front yard with a 2-foot setback from the existing sidewalk, where a 3.5-foot decorative fence located along the property line is otherwise permitted. So in your packet, I have highlighted the areas of the code that apply to this. It is noted that there is a little bit of vagueness with some of the language in here. But the first area that I have highlighted is that fences on all lots of records in all zoning districts which enclose property and or are within a required side or rear yard shall not extend toward the front of the lot nearer than the front of the principal structure or the required minimum front yard, whichever is greater, and shall comply with the following height limitations. And that's where you see not to exceed 6 feet. And that's under B also is where it states that an ornamental fence not exceeding 3.5 feet is are permitted in the front yard. I want to move to the diagram in your packet as well, that I have determined that this is indeed a front yard where this request is located based on the diagram you see here. The situation we have is the applicant's home is facing Rosemary here, and then the side street right there. So you can see in this blow up is that street side is treated as front yards if it extends beyond the back plane of the home. So I have determined that this is located in a front yard where a 3.5-foot decorative fence is permitted. Now the applicant is requesting essentially to extend their current fence, which is located right here, to the front corner of their home. So right now, the existing fence is a nonconformity in that, as we saw in that diagram, the fence line should have stopped at this back corner and gone to the back lot line. However, this was permitted by the city in this configuration, and it is a legal nonconformity at this point. However, this new fence that is being proposed here is what we're talking about this evening, and that is where I have determined that a variance would be needed if that were to be permitted to go forward in this location. I show this in plan view. You can see the red is the location of where they are requesting the fence to be extended to match the current fence line back here, which would be the same material, the 6-foot tall wood structure as you see here. According to the zoning ordinance, all 5 of the criteria must be met in order to grant variances. And I'll spare reading these out as they are in your packet. However, staff's finding is that the variance request does not meet any of the 5 standards, and therefore staff is recommending denial of this variance request based on the application and not meeting standards 1 through 5 in section 7.22.04.e. And the applicant spoke as to the reasoning that they are requesting the taller fence. And with that, I'm happy to answer any other detailed questions, if that's an overview of the request.
I have one. In driving through that subdivision and the one across the way, that particular fence line, is that the fence itself is it setback? Or what is the defined distance from the sidewalk, which is considered city property, correct?
Correct. I am showing, according to this plan, that it's a 2-foot setback off of the sidewalk.
It doesn't, I wouldn't say it's eyeballing it at 6, maybe 9 inches. It's not a 2-foot setback.
And that's, if I may, that's where I referenced the vagueness of the ordinance in that
Okay,
section 7.15.03 states that non-required fences may be located along a property. So this being a non-required fence, that's why it could actually go right up to the property line. So I will mention that we are looking at some changes to the fence ordinance at this time, just to clarify some of this, but
we've got that one. In driving through like Andrews River and other parts of the subdivision, most of the fences, there is a good 2-foot setback.
Yeah.
There's a few exceptions, but the majority of them, and it just from a safety and an aesthetic, I think it looks better that way than so close.
So let's just do this to set the ZBA and get some questions answered, and then we'll open it up for discussion. I'm gonna give you how I see it with respect to the packet. And just to be clear, I don't think that we've met formally, but you are Mr. Burkholder.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very well. So this is recommendation. This is your recommendation, which is the recommendation of the city planning department.
that is correct.
Okay, so as is noted in the packet and concerns non-required fences on residential properties such as this fence in question, any 6-foot privacy fence over 16 foot in length requires a permit and may be located along a property line, but so long as the fence also meets other specific setback requirements. For example, as the packet also notes, 6-foot privacy fences are not permitted within front yards. And we can agree on that. What complicates 48 Rosemary Street is that it meets the city definition of a corner lot. Section 7-24.03 of, and if you could just leave it right there, yep, of our zoning ordinance defines a corner lot as a parcel of land abutting upon 2 or more streets at their intersection or upon parts of the same street forming an interior angle of less than 135 degrees. So the lot in question satisfies both requirements, 2 streets with approximately a 90-degree angle, and so it's clearly a corner lot. And corner lots in our city zoning ordinance are unique because according to the depicted placement setbacks, and I have 3 places in the zoning ordinance that I've noticed this. For single-family residential buildings, their placement, section 7-3.03, accessory buildings, section 7-14.04, and fences, which is here in section 7-15.03, figure 15-2. The front yard setback requirement on corner lots also applies to the area abutting the side roadway, especially when there are front-facing homes on the opposite side of the roadway, which is what we see there. It's the case along what would be Pepper Mill Circle. And further, which is important for this property, the depicted front yard setback requirements apply to the entire length of the street frontage along the roadway. And that front yard setback requirement applies to the entire length of this. This is true, that it applies to the entire length of that. There's 125 feet there on Pepper Mill Circle, is depicted in all 3 figures in our zoning ordinance for the placement of single-family residential buildings, accessory buildings, and fences. Okay, so looking at figure 15.2 in our packets, it depicts what you see there in the property that you've circled, depicts exactly the condition for 48 Rosemary Street. It's front-facing homes on the other side of both streets. Figure 15.2 not only depicts as label S the side setback area running along the entire length of the lot along the side roadway, but it also includes a note, like you had said right there, that this entire length must be a setback equal to the front of the building or a required minimum front yard, whichever is greater, with the street side yard treated as a front yard, and that's critical. This means that for this property, there are essentially two front yards. Would you agree? The front yard with respect to Rosemary, where there's the driveway, and the full 125 feet along Peppermill Circle, which is also explicitly labeled to be treated as a front yard, according to that note on figure 15.2. So the packet is suggesting that the zoning ordinance is vague. If you look at the other corner lot just above it, where just above the circle to the right, there's a corner lot in a very similar condition, a front-facing home whose side lot is on a street, and across the street there are other front-facing homes. You'll see there an R, and that would represent the rear yard. Okay? So if we think about our property in question, it seems to me that the intention of our city ordinance seems to be that for what is considered a front yard, in this case, the front yard and the side yard, for what is considered a front yard, fences should not pass the threshold of the building, right? Because this preserves and promotes the aesthetics and visibility of the structures along the roadway. Again, in this case, the side yard has the same setbacks as the front yard, at least in part because the front-facing homes on the other side of the street have a reasonable expectation that as they look at the side of this home on a corner lot, it should present itself to them as if it were front-facing. Would you agree to that? Okay. This creates another notable issue for this property on 48 Rosemary Street, and it is this. The city of Lapeer has already issued a permit allowing the existing fence to be built on the property's restricted setback area. Am I allowed, point of inquiry, am I allowed to ask questions of the Canes and engage in dialogue? When the city issued you the permit on April 14th, was it communicated to you that the fence was in a restricted setback area?
No, she told us we could go right up to the sidewalk, but me living in a subdivision, knowing that the city owns the sidewalk, there's water that runs underneath those sidewalks, I gave myself a 18-inch setback from the sidewalk itself to the beginning and start of our fence to give some buffer room, because God forbid if there was something that would ever happen, they would have to rip up the sidewalk and our fence would be damaged. So I gave that little bit of leeway between our start of our fence to your guys' own city sidewalk.
So when you say she, you're referencing our city planning coordinator,
It would be the
administrator?
The building.
the
yeah.
Building
Who got
administrator.
the
Yes.
permit.
Okay,
Yeah. She's been working with us during this whole process.
in point of inquiry, can we identify that person?
I don't have,
Ariana?
Would this be who I spoke to earlier today?
Yes.
Okay, very well. Okay, so was it communicated to you that extending the fence, at the time when the permit was issued, was it communicated to you that extending the fence might be an issue in any way?
Yeah, I said we can come here and.
yeah, she said
like,
we
put our
can,
piece together.
yeah, put our case together and talk with you guys to see that. And I expressed before we even did this, that we looked around at other subdivisions and some of them are also following what we're trying to accomplish. And then the building department lady told us that it was a rule change that happened 10, 15 years ago where it stopped having front yards being able to be extended with the fences. So
Okay,
yeah,
that
we just-
matches what she communicated with me today. And I want to communicate this to you clearly, and we're gonna let the rest of our board ask any questions they have of you. But according to our city zoning ordinance, when the city granted you that permit to build your fence, it has made your property legal, but it's non-conforming. Because your property is now legal non-conforming in a technical sense, because your fence does not conform with what's depicted right there. And the city has said that your rear yard can now push beyond the threshold to the sidewalk. That's what it's saying. You can clearly see where a rear yard is on a corner lot, there at the top of the screen, on that corner lot. That's where your rear yard should be according to the city zoning ordinance as depicted here. But the city has let you build in a restricted setback area and they have permitted it. So I'm going to say to you that now we as a board have to communicate to this request to them why they don't have a reasonable expectation that they continue extending their fence in an area that the city has already permitted them to build in. If I'm understanding you correctly, Mr. Burke, get your name correct, I'm so sorry, Mr. Burkholder, that's correct. It was your determination that the rear yard would extend to the property line and then they could,
Well, right, there, my interpretation is that the rear yard would come off that corner house to the back property line, wherever that may be.
okay. I'm gonna open this up for discussion for everybody else. I'm going to say that so far as I can see on figure 15.2 and what I read with section 15 of our chapter 7 zoning ordinance, the city has allowed you already to build in a setback area where they should not have. They should not have, without, if this was applied clearly as is depicted here, the building permit, and you can, with how I see it, you have been permitted to build in a setback area, which makes your property legal, but it also makes it non-conforming to our zoning ordinance. Now, the city is saying, and the city staff is telling us, that they are recommending a denial because none of the 5 conditions have been met with respect to what they're asking us to consider here. Let's let everybody else discuss this as well, but I see a clear legal non-conforming issue here with this property that gives the homeowner at least the expectation that we explain to them why it would be denied since we've already permitted them to build on this section.
I hear what you're saying. That being said, these are 2 separate issues. What happened before is non-conforming, you are correct. Stands on its own merit because it was approved. However, this is a separate issue that we're dealing with here, so we need to apply the zoning ordinance to this issue. You can't ignore the fact that they have a non-conforming fence. I'm with you on that. But in this instance, on what we're being charged with today, you almost have to look at it as like you don't know that that fence is there. And that you need to treat this on its own individual merit. Outside of the fact that they already have a non-conformity on their property. Those are 2 separate things. We weren't involved in that issue. We're involved in this issue. We're charged with this issue. So we need to, in my opinion, we need to stick to this particular circumstance. But you cannot deny the fact that they have a non-conforming fence. I'm with you on that. But that doesn't have any, in my opinion, it has 0 merit on the decision that's going to be made tonight.
Sure.
I have a question. The property that is on the other side where you're seeing, it's the other corner lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's marked R for rear
Yes.
yard. Why is that a rear yard? I don't understand why that one is a rear yard and theirs is a front yard.
Man, are you talking about the one that's above that?
Yes.
That's because the arrow is facing the side street to the right. So the arrow is actually the legal front of the house. That's where the driveway is to that house.
Right.
So
No, in the corner lot. I'm talking about the corner lot. It
Yes.
says rear. But it's a
the upper right-hand corner, correct?
corner lot.
Do you have the
Correct.
sheet? I think
But-
it's.
I do, but I'm looking at it right there too.
Right.
Yes.
Right there.
Where
That-
Wade
yeah.
is, where Wade is pointing.
That's
Oh,
the
okay.
rear because the setback, the side setback is the S to the down below.
Yeah.
The arrow is the front of the house. So that is technically the rear lot or the rear yard with the ... setback for the rear yard. Are we on the same
The
page?
is the fence setback according to the chart at the bottom.
Well, I mean, if fence,
It's
whatever
the,
you wanna call it,
it's
it's
the
a
fence
setback.
line, right there. on the, can you show that, Mr. Burkhalter, down in the chart, down at the bottom where it says fence line? That is where the fence line is, the dotted line. And the reason that that is set back is because of the note beneath that, that matches the note in the circled portion that the street that the street side area marked S there is to be treated as a front yard in that case, which is it's a similar case to the 48 Roseway, this is an identical case, what is circled to 48 Rosemary, sorry. So
my question is like, why is it rear there, but not for their property?
point of inquiry to city of attorney. Can we make a motion to consider whether or not the existing fence construction is relevant to what we are being asked to do here? Or do we just continue discussing it among ourselves?
You continue discussing among yourselves. The relevant factors are the 5 standards that are detailed in the plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, okay, so any more discussion?
I think you've covered everything for me.
So,
I'm sorry, what did you say?
it's covered everything.
I think
Oh.
everything's been covered from my thoughts.
So I'm gonna respond to you, Brian. If I'm reading the zoning ordinance correctly, it's making a note, and this figure represents what the zoning ordinance conveys in the text. The arrows representing front-facing homes on the other side of the street, I have said, have a reasonable expectation that the homes that they're viewing, so much as possible, a front yard is looking at a front yard, which is why the side yard here on this corner lot is considered a front yard. And is why the fence is pushed back to where the fence cannot push beyond the threshold of the setback of the home. And even if the home, this is relevant, even if the home is set back further than the minimum setback in the property, the fence has to go with the home because it says whichever is greater, okay? The reason that I believe it's relevant for our discussion with respect to them is because the city has, in a de facto sense or in an essential sense, in their judgment, has deemed that their backyard has extended into that setback area up to the roadway 2 foot, at least with respect to what's on our packet, 2 foot away from the sidewalk. So the city is saying that with respect to their judgment and permitting them to build the fence, we are talking about an extension to a fence that the city has permitted them to build. And I think the Canes, let's look at the 5 points of question that all have to satisfy it. And let's look at the first one. The standard for which the variance is being granted would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose. They're using the property for a purpose that the city has now permitted. They've permitted them to build the fence. And I'm saying now there's a reasonable expectation that they could extend their fence in the same permitted area. So they at least opens up for discussion. That's why the former fence is relevant, right? At least they, well, why can't I? Okay.
Can I ask a question on that point?
Yeah.
So in your explanation, you want it for a dog run. So I'm questioning, is it an extension or is it a creation of an additional fence that there'll still be that existing end of the fence to create the dog run? Because you want the dog run to be separate from the kids area.
It'll be an extension of
It
the
would be an
fence, but
extension.
there's a gate that's existing there as well, so it's an extension of our fence.
We want everything to look uniform.
But there'll still be a barrier. So in a sense, it's not an extension. It's an additional fenced area.
But there's a gate if I see it, so that gate will open into the dog run.
Nope, that gate that you see on that area would open us into our backyard. It would go into the dog run, yes. There's another gate permitted on top of the sidewalk area where we get our lawnmower in and out.
Let me ask you a question. Do you understand what I'm saying about your fence? And let's say you're standing in your rear yard and you're looking toward Peppermill Circle.
Yeah.
The city has allowed you to push your fence up to the roadway to where it's permitted, and we'll just say, according to the packet, 2 feet from the sidewalk. The city has told you that that's okay.
Yep.
They've permitted it.
Yeah, and the inspector came, measured everything out and gave us a green tag and was talking to my father-in-law for a little bit
So-
and then left.
That is the city is considering that your rear yard.
Yeah,
But according to our zoning, or this is why I'm saying your property is non-conforming. And that's not, the city's legally letting you be, you're legal.
yeah,
What's before us, though, is whether or not the spirit of the zoning ordinance, and this is what I mean, we have to make a judgment on a non-compliant property, or I'm sorry, a non-conforming property now. And the spirit of the zoning ordinance is trying to protect your neighbors across the street who have front yards and they're looking at your property. The fence in question, and let me know if you would agree with this, is it adds another variable here, what you're requesting, because it's putting fence directly in front of your home. And there is a 2 foot, I don't know how, in that little corner, it doesn't go right to the corner. But
it's gonna come off the back because our main gutter system's right
yep,
there.
I can see, I can see right here in the packet where it is. The city has already, and it looks like maybe a foot off the corner.
Yep,
It's not right on the corner, but you're covering the whole side of your home up to the front threshold. So your neighbor directly opposed to you, and we got one of your neighbors who lives a little bit further down the street.
yeah, Mr. Dan.
Yeah, I would like to hear, and I know that they're not gonna be here, we can't do this now.
Unfortunately, yeah, we have a letter with us too from
From
him.
724 or
Yes, sir.
718?
Yeah.
So can we submit that for evidence? Can I see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we say something too? We live in the neighborhood.
Point of inquiry, Mr. Francis, that is not, we're not open, we've
Public
closed.
hearing was closed.
Yep, the public hearing was closed, and public comment later in this.
Mr.
Point-
Chair, I was gonna say, can you acknowledge the, letters that you received on your desk so that
Yes.
those can be made part of
So
the
this,
record?
is this the same letter that we've already received? It is.
Yes.
It is. It's the same. Okay, we've received it. So we've received this letter. Very well, thank you. And it is from Daniel, I don't know how to pronounce this, but not. And, but this is 744 Peppermill Circle. 744 Peppermill Circle is on the corner, it's not directly opposing your property. It's down the road a little bit. They can see your
He's
property.
like kitty corner from our
Kitty
fence.
corner, it's kitty
Yeah.
corner. I'm looking at 724, which is right across the street. I'm looking at 730 and then 718, I believe it is here. And that's directly, so when they look out their front door, they're looking at the side of their home, which is being treated as a front yard because the city, it's corner lot and the city wants this to be presented as a front yard. However, the city has already allowed them to push their backyard up to the roadway. That's what we're talking about. The reason it's relevant, Brian, and I'm responding still to Brian's question, it's not relevant. We just have to decide whether or not to allow them to install this fence in front of their home. It would go in front of their home. Now, have you received any opinions from 724 or 718 from those neighbors?
I don't know the addresses or anything
It's
along
right
those
across,
lines.
it's the two homes right across the street.
I have instance from the lady across the street who seemed to be very opposed to it, and it's the same lady who took out our subdivision sign without properly consulting you guys as well, which caused a stir in our neighborhood. And her fence butts up right against the city sidewalk as well.
I just have a question. So this extension is coming to the house,
Mhm. They want to,
but not all the way up
they want to
To the house.
essentially,
to the edge of the.
they're gonna extend this fence right here up to the front threshold. There's gonna be a new line from the front threshold, the front of the home. It should, as depicted right there in red.
Okay.
It's right there. Yep. So it will, from the standpoint of their neighbors, to be fair, their front facing home is going to be looking directly at a fence instead of their home, which is exactly what the spirit of our ordinance, unfortunately, is trying to prevent them looking at a fence.
You also have to take into consideration, and you
Bless you.
pointed this out earlier, that you, in order to approve this, you have to meet all five of these. So regardless, look at the nature of these issues. Do we meet all five of them?
So I'm torn on this, but let's talk about that. Let's discuss this. Number
I'm not
one,
It's the way, we have to go by that.
right,
We
but
can't deviate from
it's
that.
worth noting, it is noteworthy that in our packet, it was not, this property was not identified as legal non-conforming. And nowhere in the packet does it say that. So the city staff is basing its recommendation, it reads to me as if this is a conforming property. The packet reads as if this is a conforming property, and it is not a conforming property, it's non-conforming. So we have to take that into consideration with respect to the 5 bullet points, and I have no way of knowing if the staff did that. I'm not impugning the staff in any way. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm saying that their recommendation is weighing heavily on me, and I'm predisposed to align with it with respect to what the staff is telling me. However, let's look at them and consider it with what the city is asking us to consider this, each of the 5 points. And we can say yes or no. Number one, the standard for which the variance is being granted would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. So again, because the city has permitted building in that setback area, which should have been denied if it was to be a conforming property. If this property was to remain conforming, that should have been denied. But the city permitted it, which makes it non-conforming legal. So now they could have I'm just saying, they could have a valid argument that, well, the city has already postured to us that we should be able to use our property for this intended purpose. Why can't we extend the fence that's already in the front yard according to our zoning ordinance? And they could have, okay, so it's at least opening up for discussion. We're not determining that yet. We're just saying, number one, unsettled in my mind. All right, number two, and you can push back, and that's fair. That's what we're here for. The variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to the other property owners in the zoning district, and a lesser relaxation of the standard would not provide substantial relief or be more consistent with justice to others. We can talk about this too. Maybe we could say now, because the city, again, has already allowed them to build in a restricted area, that it would be substantially just. They've already allowed a fence in the same setback area. Denying them the ability to have a functional fence in the same setback while allowing the existing fence might seem unfair to them, unjust to them. That's reasonable. Again. Is it asking for anything dramatically different than what the city's already allowed? No. Should the city apply its rules consistently with respect to this property? Yes. And so again, number two, let's go to number three. The problem is due to circumstances unique to the property and not to the general conditions in the area. And the fact that the city has made this property legal non-conforming is unique to this property. Now they're like, well, we got this unique situation. The city has permitted us to build. Why is the city denying us now? The city has to tell them why they're denying them now. The problem that resulted in the need for the variance was not created by the applicant or the previous owners of the property. Fact check, true. It's created by the city, permitting them to build in a legal, non-conforming way. Issuance of the variance would still ensure the spirit of the ordinance is observed, public safety secured, and substantial justice done. This one, here's a reasonable argument from their standpoint, and this is what I want to talk about, the spirit of the ordinance. Approving this variance would still uphold the spirit of the ordinance. The rules regarding fences on corner lots are intended to protect neighborhood character, maintain reasonable setbacks, and protect sightlines. The request is consistent with what the city has already allowed on this property with the existing fence. Public safety would not be harmed because the 25-foot sightlines are still in place. Public safety would not be harmed. In fact, we would be increasing public safety in a way, because now there would be a dog run to protect the dog and protect the citizens from their dog jumping an ornamental fence, for example. And
But they already have a non-conforming fence where their dog could be.
Yes.
This is in addition to, so you can't use that determination for this cause. I'm ready to move. I
Okay.
move to deny the variance request submitted by Jessica and Nicholas Kane for the property located at 48 Rosemary Street, parcel number L21-31-624-040.00. Based on the evidence presented and the record of public hearing, the board finds that the applicant has failed to demonstrate practical difficulties sufficient to justify the requested variance under section 7-15-3, .3, fences and walls, for the reasons specified herein. Number one, the alleged hardship is not due to unique physical characteristics of the property. The need for the variance is substantially self-created. The property can be used in conformity with the zoning ordinance. The requested variance is greater than necessary to provide reasonable use of the property. And 5, granting the variance would be inconsistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance.
Point of inquiry. Once a member has moved, do we have to vote or can we discuss? Does it have to be seconded first of all? Yes, it must be seconded.
Yeah.
Do I have to do that first or can I
Yes.
allow Ann to speak with respect to that?
Should take the second first before it's opened up for discussion.
Do we have a second?
I would like to hear what Ann has to say.
There is no second. Point of inquiry, are we allowed to now open it up from further discussion?
If there's no second, it dies and you keep talking.
There is no second.
I would like to ask, the attorney a question.
Yeah.
Where does the city stand legally if we, for instance, deny based on the 5 criteria? If it's, the arguments are valid, it would seem. So, I mean, I can argue for either way. Because we're talking about an addition. However, there's a sound argument for it already being a legal non-complying. So legally, what does this do?
Well, I mean, the applicant, if it's denied, would have the ability to appeal. I don't get to make the determination. That's the circuit judge's decision. I think the motion that was made focused on the factors and recited the, I'll call them factual findings or the basis for the requested denial. There's a fairly high deferential standard that's granted to ZBAs on appeal, as long as it's supported by substantial, competent material evidence on the record, it will sustain in the Court of Appeals. I don't get to make the decision. I feel like the motion was supported, but I don't get a vote, and I'm not sure you're asking me for my opinion on the 5 factors, but I would defer to the planner.
No, not necessarily on the 5 factors, but the interpretation or any further legal ramifications.
I don't know, but you're here on a variance request to extend a fence that the applicant was told when they built the fence a month ago. If you wanna go, regardless of a mistake or not, if you wanna go any further, you need to come to this body and request the variance. That's all we're here about today.
Okay.
So I think it's for you, Wade. So basically, what was granted them was a variance without coming to the ZBA. They got a variance without, they got a variance from whoever gave that to them without coming. So basically, we're here to say two wrongs don't make a right, to go against our
So they were,
variance.
yes, they were issued the fence permit, mistake or not, they were issued it, became a legal non-conforming fence. That issue's done for the city.
Right,
This request here tonight is for adding that dog run part, which in our view is a separate issue than what was permitted prior. Nobody's here to say remove that fence that you, because
Yeah.
that's
right,
permitted.
right.
But the issue is, you know, it's a legal nonconformity. Well, typically in language, you're not to extend a legal nonconformity without further approvals, and here we are for that further approval tonight.
And the applicant was made aware that they would need that approval. Point of inquiry to Mr. Francis again. And Yeah, I apologize for the continued point of inquiries. I want to ask the questions just so we can make a right judgment. So
Sure.
are you concerned with respect to this applicant and any like, I think it's equitable estoppel?
No,
So this, does not the city issuing a permit weaken the city's case of it?
in the variance, in my opinion, absolutely not.
Okay.
One more question too. So, and I'm not even saying they would be interested in this, but would it be possible to do a fence that is not a privacy fence so their home can still be seen? But, I mean, I'm just trying to have a compromise that would make,
Yeah, they would be permitted a 3.5 foot decorative fence in that area outlined in the red, which doesn't meet, from what I understand, their goal.
I believe, if I think I understand you right,
I'm thinking.
there's other types of 6-foot fences that are not privacy fences, a chain link fence that would still expose the house and still protect the neighbors from the dog. That it would be,
Chain link would not be permitted.
chain links are also not permitted in front yards, according to our zoning ordinance. So here,
But there could be a variance for that versus that.
Variance to materials, there, I mean, theoretically, sure.
I just kind of feel bad because, sorry, but we talk about welcoming businesses and we talk about the fact that our population is not increasing. And here we have a young couple moving into the area and we've kind of done, not us per se, but whoever didn't steer them to go through the proper channels have kind of are leaving a bad taste in newcomers to the area. Because as speaking as the city, have led them down a false path and not really. So it seems like we ought to be able to come up with some kind of a better approach. And if making it kind of not so non-compliant, but meeting their needs, accomplishing something that hopefully doesn't leave a totally bad, like, hello, you're not welcome to the city kind of thing. That says we're trying to, welcome people, that we want new people in the area. And maybe we need to straighten up some language and sort of make sure we're doing things in the proper order. And not steering people in the wrong direction.
I just want to add, it's not that I don't like the fence. It's not that I don't feel for these folks. If I were in their situation, I would be sitting there too, in all fairness. However, at the end of the day, this board is a quasi-judicial board. We set precedent.
yes,
We have to follow these 5 parameters. We must. Or that guy makes a lot of money. So at the end of the day, this is why I'm saying it is critical that we have to take our emotion out of the situation. I feel for them, but my feeling for them has no merit on these 5 elements that we have to adhere to.
very well.
So with that being said, I will move.
Before we make a motion,
Yeah,
these do standard practice have to be read into record by either Mr. Chairman
I will-
or the planning consultant.
I'll
These two
give,
letters.
I have the 5 here and I'll make sure you get them.
I'll read this into the record. Let's,
Do you mean the
I'm
letters?
talking about the 2 letters, not the
Oh,
standards of
gotcha,
approval.
okay.
You want me to
The
read
2
this one?
letters.
I've got this one ready.
let me read.
Okay.
I'm fine with them not being read in as long as they're referenced
Oh.
by date and
Oh,
included
okay.
in the agenda packet. I don't mind if you read them in, there's 2.
Let's just read them in.
But I foresee situations where you might have 30 of them for a different variance request.
Oh,
I first would
and
like,
we're setting
I
precedent.
understand that.
Right,
I just want to, before he does that, I'd like to clarify, I didn't say what I said based on emotion. it's based on, to me, we don't have a clear line. We have somebody set a rule and allowed a variance that we're now faced with that wasn't a conforming in no way. So I feel bad for them, whoever did that. It didn't go through the proper channels, and I feel bad for them. And maybe that's where it seems emotional, but it's not right to try and correct a wrong with another wrong. It seems.
We'll see in the
So-
future.
I will concur with what she said with respect to, don't assume that I'm basing this on some emotional appeal. I agree with you. It is a legally binding decision, and I understand that. Let's, as requested, and then you're free to say, go ahead, before we
Well,
read this into the
I
record.
just, to that point, since we're having this discussion, to that point, go back one more, to where it shows the setbacks. Okay. That is the law, if you will. What happened, happened. We have to follow that, not what happened in the past. We have to follow that. Based on that, and the fact that this fence isn't built yet, I really don't care if they have a non-conforming fence already. I'm following that. And I'm following the 5 parameters, and I'm concluding based on that and the 5 parameters, not all 5 of them could be met. Therefore, that's why I'm moving to deny.
So, I understand. We have to follow that with respect to what the city's already allowed. I'm just saying that is relevant in my view. Here,
But this
let-
isn't built yet.
I understand that. But what they've already been permitted by the city to build on, which is in the setback area, is relevant to this decision. We have to explain to them why we're not allowing them to continue doing what the city has already permitted them to do. Okay, now, I want to read this into the record because we've been asked to. And as we go forward with further meetings, this will all get cleaned up, especially with respect to the training that's coming, and I'm hoping that's helpful, and I thank you for it. June 12th, 2026, declaration of support for variance of residents at 48 Rosemary Street, Lapeer, Michigan, 48446. I'm writing in support of the variance Nicholas and Jessica Kane are requesting for their 6-foot wooden fence project encompassing their backyard space. Nick and Jessica are new residents of the Peppermill Estate subdivision and have paid immediate attention to getting to know their new neighbors and have taken deliberate action in not only maintaining, but enhancing and improving upon the aesthetic of their lot. I've been a resident of Peppermill Estates for 26 years and have observed many homes within our subdivision not being maintained, yards not mowed, landscaping left unattended, and even the subdivision sign torn down without being consulted. Nick and Jessica's fence project was constructed through proper permitting, attention to quality and construction codes, and respect to surrounding neighbors during the construction process. Thank you, Janya Winuk, 744 Peppermill Circle, Lapeer, Michigan, 48446. So that is now officially entered into the record. That is a copy of what was already in our packet. I did not receive a new letter. So far as I'm aware, I have one.
There are 2.
Okay.
A new one was set up there.
It's a 2-page.
Today, June 20th.
Francis said if we start reading all the letters, then next time.
To whom it concerns. And this is from Lapeer City Hall to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
It's from someone that's anonymous.
It says attention.
Their recommendation.
Right.
Oh, this is the city's.
And this is what
It's
you,
not a public.
and this is what we want read
This
into
is
the
a
record.
public letter, it's anonymous
Yeah,
letter, they
yeah.
did not wanna sign
Yeah.
it themselves,
They
as you can
sent
see on
it.
page
Very
2.
well. Thank you for the clarification. And thank you for helping move this along.
That's okay.
So Thank you for the opportunity to address my concerns regarding the variance application to extending fencing along the sidewalk of the property at 48 Rosemary Street, Lapeer, Michigan 48446. While I choose to remain anonymous, I do live within the same subdivision as the applicant. I wish respectfully request that the board deny the requested variance to extend a 6-foot privacy fence into the side yard setback. Per section 722-04E of our ordinance, a petitioner must meet all 5 strict standards to justify a variance. The application fails to meet those standards, representing a request for personal convenience rather than a response to a true property hardship. Point 1, there is no unnecessary burden or prevented use, standard 1. The current ordinance does not unreasonably prevent the permitted residential use of this property. The applicant currently possesses a fully functional, standard-sized backyard that's completely available for recreation, landscaping, and pet containment. Wanting to expand an enclosure further into a highly visible side yard is a personal preference and a matter of convenience, not a legal hardship imposed by zoning code. Point 2, it fails to do substantial justice to neighbors, standard 2. This is a beautiful property which has long been one of the more beautiful homes in the neighborhood. I would say in the city. The property in question is highly visible to everyone entering the neighborhood, allowing a 6-foot solid privacy fence to extend deep into the side yard heavily diminishes the open, welcoming aesthetic of the neighborhood entrance, negatively impacting the character of the community and the visual equity of adjacent properties. I'm also concerned that allowing such a fence would set a precedent within the neighborhood. Point 3. The situation is not unique to the property, standard 3. The standard requires that the problem be due to circumstances unique to the physical land. There are no severe topographical drops, irregular lot shapes, or geographical anomalies on this parcel. If it is a standard corner lot. Corner lots are a routine, predictable feature of subdivision design. If the mere existence of a corner lot constitutes a unique circumstance justifying a variance, then every corner lot owner could claim the same right, completely undermining the purpose of the setback ordinance. Point 4. The hardship is entirely self-created. Standard 4. Fourth, any perceived limitation here is entirely self-created by the applicant's lifestyle choices and desire for a specific yard configuration. The physical parameters of a lot have not changed since it was purchased. A variance is intended to remedy a restriction forced upon property by its geography, not to accommodate personal preferences or choices made after the fact. Many in this neighborhood own dogs and are able to exercise them, clean up after them, and enjoy them without the addition of unreasonable amounts of fencing. In point 5, it violates the spirit of the ordinance and raises public safety concerns. Corner lot setback ordinance exists for 2 vital reasons: neighborhood aesthetics and public safety. Pushing a 6-foot solid barrier closer to the public right-of-way and adjacent roadways compromises sightlines. Furthermore, moving containment structures for domestic animals closer to a public sidewalk or street rather than keeping them securely in the rear yard introduces an unnecessary safety friction into the immediate neighborhood. Allowing a dog access, regardless of fencing, along a sidewalk where children and other neighborhoods walk with or without dogs of their own seems to encourage startling and unpleasant interactions with the owner's dog rather than prevent them. The current wood backyard fence is not an impermeable structure, and a fence of the same material would not prevent a dog from being aware of other animals or people adjacent to it. Because this application fails to demonstrate a unique physical hardship, fails to prove an unnecessary burden, and compromises the visual and structural integrity of our subdivision entry, it does not satisfy the 5 legal standards required for a variance. I respectfully urge the board to uphold the ordinance and deny this request. Thank you. Sincerely, a homeowner, and it should be said an anonymous homeowner residing in the Peppermill Estates subdivision. Now, before we close discussion, and before we move for a vote, I will say, let's take a look at point 5 here, because it deals with respect to the spirit of the ordinance. Now, this letter in particular claims that the spirit of the ordinance is to ensure aesthetics and public safety with respect to sight lines, but even if the fence, and if you could pull that back up, Mr. Burkhalter, even if the fence is extended up to the front of the dwelling. The sight lines are still well within the 25 feet recommended. So let's take that one and set it aside. And we're gonna take the condition so far as someone being startled aside, because the same condition applies in the backyard fence that exists, and someone walking along it. My concern is that the spirit of the ordinance was, and what the city should have done with respect to permitting the fence, was to prevent the fence from passing the threshold and going toward the street, to protect the aesthetics, so that the neighbors on the other side of the street would as much as possible view it as a front yard. That is what I'm reading the ordinance as, in its clear language and as depicted on figure 15.2. And that is what makes this unique in my view, is that the fence would extend in front of the structure, in front of the house. And like Brian said, as much as I want to grant a variance request for this, it does change the condition with respect to the neighbors whose front yards are on Peppermill Circle looking at this property. There still is the question of the fact that the city permitted the rear yard to approach Peppermill Circle. And I think that we need to consider going forward how the city is going to deal with this going forward. And I will just say this. On Berkshire Street, where I live, I had a neighbor install a fence. And the city code enforcement came and forced them to take down their fence and move their existing for the exact same condition you're in. And they had, except it was not a privacy fence, but it was a chain link fence, which are also not permitted in front yards. And they were forced to move their fence back so that it didn't impugn upon the threshold of the dwelling, so that your rear yard stops where the side of your dwelling is. And they had to physically change their fence. I would not recommend that for you at all. The city has permitted you to build there, and I don't think the city would have grounds to go back on that. I don't think they should. So the city has inconsistently applied this. The city has inconsistently applied this with respect to different residents in the city. And they've permitted you to put a privacy fence up on an area. That's what's before us, on an area that should have been prohibited, right? Can we agree on that? And we can agree that that's relevant with respect to their request and with respect to whether or not we're going to approve or deny it. So I misread this earlier. As I was getting my legs under me with how to run a meeting according to Robert's rules, and I thank you for the help. But I read the motion as if it was the beginning of the public hearing. There's two ways that we can observe this. We can either move to approve or deny based upon the suggested motions put in front of us. And so I can't think of much more to say on this. We have training afterward. I think the applicant has clearly said why they want to use it. We understand the zoning ordinance that so much as possible, the intent was that the side of the property was to represent a front yard. The side of the property is supposed to be a front yard. The city has allowed them to build there, which complicates it.
Can I ask a question? Is there anything that says that if they changed the type of fence that they couldn't come out for a
They would be asking for a different variance under a different section, so it would be a brand new application. If you're talking about materials of the fence.
Yeah,
Yes, that would be a totally separate, brand new request.
but they could do that.
They could.
Okay.
But it's still, it's still not compliant with our
Yeah.
ordinance.
I believe, and with Brian on, we can't really consider what the city's done before. We have to apply what is applying to us right now, and you're here now.
We can't consider it because why?
It's done, it's not relevant to what we're doing today.
We didn't make that decision.
So we have two competing interests here, and the city of Lapeer is required to apply its rules consistently. They've allowed this, here's the competing interest. They've allowed this homeowner to build on a setback area. That is relevant. It's relevant to how we decide, but with respect to allowing them to continue it,
You're saying,
the
President,
homeowner's interest is, yes, you've already let us build there. The neighbors are saying, I have a right to expect that I see the side of that dwelling because the city had intended that to be a front yard. That's what the neighbors, to be fair to the neighbors living right across the street, they want that to be a front yard, and that's what the city wants aesthetically. That's why the zoning ordinance exists. So if we step back, and that's what number 5 asks us to consider, the spirit of the ordinance. And in my view, the spirit of the ordinance, unfortunately, is that the variance be denied. That's my view. The spirit of the ordinance would be that this should remain a front yard as much as possible. So the city has already allowed you to build up to the roadway with respect to the 2-foot, and they've given you leeway that other residents haven't been given. You know, they haven't, and I've seen residents in our own neighborhood not be given the leeway that you've been given. The city has applied this rule inconsistently. But,
Just leaves a bad taste for
yeah,
a first move that.
And-
we're
We
doing
asked so many questions
inconsistent.
before we even built this fence, guys.
Yeah.
Like, we asked how far it should be, how far in advance can we make it? That's why they said, you know, you have to go in front of you guys to request the extended amount. So we followed all the rules.
I mean, I figured you guys would want younger generations moving in and upholding and making the city a better place. Kind of leaves definitely a bad taste in my mouth where I'm, I don't know, you know?
yeah, we do. And I would say to you, you know, when a younger just respectfully, if a younger resident were to move across the street and their front yard is facing your property, a privacy fence covering the dwelling in a front yard is what the city is trying to avoid, because your house is beautiful. The landscaping's immaculate, the fence is beautiful, the aesthetics of your house with respect to other properties, even in your own subdivision, it stands out, and the aesthetics of your house will be affected with that fence covering the structure.
There's really nothing on the side of the house but siding and a side garage door, so I don't think it would be ruining the aesthetics of our beautiful front yard and all the money we put in our landscaping as well.
Right.
And our side yard, I mean, realistically, if people across the street are trying to look in our side yard, there's just grass and siding. There's nothing aesthetic or great about the side of our house.
I understand that, but we have to follow that.
Right.
Regardless of the aesthetics of his house is gorgeous. We all can agree on that.
Yes,
The fence is beautiful. I have to agree on that. We have to follow that.
yes.
Regardless of how beautiful it is, we have to follow that. And
What,
we have to follow
It
these
would
fine
be nice
parameters.
if the city had, or whoever.
I know, but we did
had
not do
followed it
that,
all
so.
along.
we
It just
need,
leaves a bad
I'm gonna move
taste.
again. I'm gonna attempt to move again. I move to deny the variance request submitted by Jessica and
Hide it
Nicholas
from
Kane
everybody.
for the property located at 48 Rosemary Street, parcel number L21-31-624-040.00, based on the evidence presented, excuse me, in the record of the public hearing. The board finds that the applicant has failed to demonstrate practical difficulties sufficient to justify the requested variance under section 7-15.3, fences and walls, for reasons specified herein. And for the clerk, I'll get this to you. Number 1, the alleged hardship is not due to unique physical characteristics of the property. Number 2, the need for the variance is substantially self-created. Number 3, the property can be reasonably used in conformity with the zoning ordinance. Number 4, the requested variance is greater than necessary to provide reasonable use of the property. Number 5, granting the variance would be inconsistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance.
point of inquiry. Can I make a motion to amend his motion?
Can ask them if you would like to amend it. Once there's a second made, it belongs to the body and the body would have to.
So,
approve it.
before-
There has not been a second yet.
I want to make sure that this goes smoothly and we're doing it according to how these proceedings are to be run. Brian has moved. My view, and there's a point of inquiry to you, Mr. Francis. My view is that what he has read in the latter half of his motion is only true with respect to point 5. because the city has allowed them to build on the property as is in a setback area, the only thing that I can see where they wouldn't have reasonable grounds to dispute us is on the spirit of the ordinance. So if you would, Brian, just be willing to consider,
No,
so then,
I move forward to second the motion.
so we have a motion, move, and we have a second.
Chair,
So-
if I can just interrupt briefly, I have no problem with the motion, no problem with the second discussion voting, but I want everybody on the board to know to approve a variance is going to require 4 votes. And I just want everyone to.
Right.
realize it. Okay.
Would you like it to be a roll call vote or a yeas and nays?
it should be roll call.
Yes, okay, so
Alright, so on a roll call vote. Berta,
It's a no for me.
the motion's to deny the variance, correct?
Correct.
Right, so
so
it
you're
would be
saying
a
no
yes
to
for me.
deny.
Sorry.
So you
No, I
want
would
yay?
like to deny the request.
That's
Sorry.
okay. I was gonna put up 8-foot arborvitae's all the way around and block it all up.
Okay.
Petrie,
No. Oh, wait,
Are you voting?
I'm voting to deny.
It's a yes.
yeah. Lotier,
I'm sorry, was that me?
yeah, I'm sorry, how do you pronounce it?
Yes, yes.
Shane,
I'm kind of torn. I would like maybe a friendly adjustment. I would agree with what Wes wants to, so as it stands, I'm not gonna support it.
so nay, and Weber.
with respect to the motion as it was presented, no.
Okay, the motion fails.
Actually, the variance was denied, because you only need 4 votes to approve the variance. So you have,
Right.
so the denial stands.
Right.
Oh, 4 voted yes, who did I
No,
miss?
you need 4 to approve it, but the vote was to deny it, so you're not getting 4 to approve the variance.
Just need a majority on a denial vote.
Correct.
Okay. Thought you said 4, not the same.
Okay.
4 due to grant the variance.
Ah.
That was a request to deny.
So that closes that issue.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on to F1. And it's zoning board of appeals bylaws.
That's orientation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. So I put these bylaws together because prior to this, the zoning board of appeals did not have any. And I think it's a best practice to, one, have them, but also in pursuing our redevelopment, ready community certification, all boards had to have them as well. So I, copied and pasted the planning commission bylaws and added in a little bit from the city commission procedures, I believe, from the public comment piece, and put this together.
Okay. So do we need to read this into the public record as well, point of inquiry? No.
No,
I have a point of inquiry to you. Is there anything substantial that has changed in this from the previous bylaws or any changes?
I was not involved. If you're asking me, Chair, I was not involved in drafting. I don't know what the prior bylaws say, so I can't answer that question.
I move that we have our city attorney look at this and we can approve at our next meeting, cause I would feel better since we didn't have any before. No offense to anyone, I just
No,
would
not
like our
taken.
city attorney to make sure it's what we need, and then at our next meeting,
I second that.
We didn't have any.
Oh, okay, perfect.
we,
I missed that, perfect.
So we have a motion on the floor that the city attorney consider these bylaws and then we will consider them at the next ZBA meeting. We have a second and we can move to vote now if I'm not mistaken.
Question,
Go ahead.
because this is technically spending money, should it be a roll call vote?
I don't have a problem either way, it's probably the cleaner way to do it.
Okay,
So roll call vote?
because it's spending money, I would do it.
Very well. Can we get a roll call vote?
Most certainly. Before I do that, can I just confirm it was moved by Petrie and seconded by who?
It was,
Oh, seconded by Wes.
I seconded it.
Thank you. Alright, so roll call. Berta,
Yes,
Petrie,
yes.
Coultier,
Yes,
Shank,
Yes.
Weber.
Yes. So the last thing I see, let me set on the agenda, let's go back. We have
Orientation.
bylaws, correspondence. I don't see any,
they've already been read in the record.
already been read. And then we have a training seminar. And so we are now on item H.
would it be okay if I take a quick pee break?
Yes.
Thank you.
I did, it's, just PDF actually, thank you.
Suggested that they didn't meet any of the five, which is untrue.
Well, unfortunately, we got handed over, it's not.
No, thank you, no.
This is what confused me.
Me too, I'm
Thank
like,
you.
Like I got suggested motion.
right, but,
You get those all the time, right?
well, no, usually they're in our packet,
Okay.
so that's why.
You didn't get this?
You didn't get that,
I went and got this from.
No, I just had to stay.
you didn't get this,
No.
with all the,
Okay, so she would send emails out to all of us.
I suggested.
What are we talking about?
no, but I picked up with this.
What?
And the letter. And the- I don't remember it. I think I was at this house.
Sam, did you do the agenda and the packet, or does Ally?
I do.
So will this always be separate, our,
I really appreciate
So
it.
we run the meetings the same as the
Thanks
planning
so much.
commission, and suggested motions are always
Separate.
separate from the packet.
okay, not written into
I am
the
very-
packet like city.
I was very
Correct.
thankful when I saw this on the agenda today, so.
Like I made extra.
So I
I don't know about
didn't
that.
get that, I didn't
Thanks.
have that when I came. Was it in the mail? Abby, did you mail it to me and I just didn't get it, so I didn't get to my mail
The
yet?
packet, you picked it up the day you attended.
No, I didn't get the motions.
Oh, no, this was
Wasn't
at your desk when we got here today.
Yeah, it wasn't at mine.
Well, my motion wasn't in that packet.
No, yours wasn't, but I
So-
mean, they're
Okay,
suggested.
I mean, I did set them up there, I don't know if maybe it blew away, did you want another copy?
Or did it get?
I didn't get a copy, so it's okay, I mean, we're down.
Oh, did I give you one? Yeah, absolutely.
I was gone.
No, you're good. I wasn't sure if you were coming back,
Let me
so.
see if I got two of them.
Just a
maybe.
quick break.
And we have two letters, I gave it to you.
Get rid of some coffee.
I
No,
don't
that-
know.
no, I did.
I wasn't gonna ask for it, though.
I got one.
You got one.
I could just. I can
Uh-huh.
right here.
I had two.
Okay.
Wasn't just my fault.
Oh, is that just like
Yeah.
we're getting beyond my level of comfort, but
It's just up and down.
is it really?
It just didn't get distributed.
What?
I just think.
Oh, I got you.
It
Sorry.
was
Maybe I
here.
can get it.
It was there?
Yeah, it just not.
Is
for
this-
me.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay, I can't really hear you from here.
It did get passed on.
And here's the, that's why
It was up here, but didn't get
Here's
passed.
the next that can watch the ZBA.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Oh, you know what you're talking about.
They didn't meet any of the requirements and.
Oh, I keep it
Now,
right.
we're off
They gave
recording now,
all
aren't we?
variances to.
No, we're still on
to be
recording.
supervised.
Yes, we record till the meeting is adjourned at the end.
Oh, so you can do orientations on.
All right, look at this. 3 years of doing this and just I've never had a full point like this. Stay longer.
Please, it's a,
No, you say please go?
please don't.
Yeah.
I got work in the morning.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna. Benefit of the TV up there.
Yeah, because I'm sure you're gonna have to carry.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the training. This is wonderful.
Locally famous.
Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, I will start by saying I'm not comfortable with PowerPoint. This is actually in PDF form, nor am I comfortable with the pointer, so forgive me, but I'll do my best. That's why I made these copies. Also, I don't intend to answer every theoretical question that might be presented to the ZBA. I want to give everyone a general overview of kind of what the process is. Everybody knows, I think, where to find me if there are any questions, because it's very, real property in the law is unique in and of itself. So every property is a very unique situation. My goal, with respect, generally to representing the city is to ensure that whatever action, in this case, the ZBA wants to take is documented properly and is documented in a way that if it's challenged, hopefully we can withhold that challenge. And I was actually for a different municipality in court today, in Mount Clemens on a zoning board of an appeal from a zoning board. So they do happen. And the important part is you're gonna see as I get through the training, the decision's important, but from my perspective, the record is the most important thing. So what's the decision based on and is it clear? So with that, I've handed the packet out to you. It's a bit crude, my slideshow maybe, but let's run through it. There we go. So you heard this mentioned today, the ZBA's role is a quasi-judicial agency. I think of it as, well, it's called the Zoning Board of Appeals, but in my world, I think of it as a court of appeals with respect to sort of 3 or 4 different things. So when you look at a quasi-judicial agency, it functions like a court. You're not making policy, you're not making ordinance changes, you're making decisions regarding existing ordinances and you're applying them to the facts that are present in a particular case. The slide over here, the city of Lapeer ZBA is 6 members. I know there's only 5, which raised a little issue I wasn't expecting tonight in the vote. You're going to see in another slide that an affirmative vote of 4 is required to basically for this board to take action on almost anything, to approve a variance, that sort of thing. Generally, the ZBA is subject to Michigan law, which is primarily the Zoning Enabling Act and the City of Lapeer Code of Ordinances, and specifically referencing section 722-01 to 06 with respect to the Code of Ordinances. I'm not sure, I know Mr. Weber is new on the board, I'm not sure everybody else's length. If there's anything you take away, I would read section 722-01 to section 722-06 of the Code of Ordinances. That is a starting point. We'll have you ready for most meetings. And when, excuse me, then when you look at the agenda, you may have further explanation or further things you want to look at. But that'll talk about your duties, and that's the great starting point about where to go from there. I'm going backwards. All right, it's down. So these are the core functions of the City of Lapeer ZBA. And I'm sorry I'm not looking at you, but it's easier for me to look at that than my slide too. But anyone has questions, as long as it's with the chair, I'm fine being interrupted, just let me know. Administrative appeals, those are errors with decisions made by the building official or zoning administrator. So try and give an example of that. So we actually had one today. So let's say it's a little bit of a different flip around, but let's say a zoning or building official denies a fence that should be granted without a variance. That would be a question they bring back to you to say, hey, the building department said I can't build this 3-foot fence in my front yard, but it's permitted under your ordinance. That is, the appeal of that decision is to this body. Not terribly common, but they do actually happen. Dimensional variances, also applicable today. I call them the math variances, setbacks, that sort of thing. That's probably the primary thing that the ZBAs consider that you'll see. Height limitations, the one I had today involved parking spots, height limitations, and setbacks for development. So those are common for ZBA. You also have a specific signage variance procedure, which we'll talk about in a minute. Not necessarily that common for all ZBAs, but it's common, but it's applicable for you. The next one is code interpretations. So this body is charged with interpreting the code when it's asked to do so. Sometimes it's asked to do so internally by the city departments. Other times it's asked to do so by an applicant or an individual, and both are permissible. So take our fence situation. That may be before there's a decision made, the city planner or the city Department of Planning may say, hey, we view this is the side yard or front yard, and then someone wants to come before official decision to say, hey, what is this body's interpretation? So in that case, you're looking at interpreting the zoning ordinance. Another one, I don't know how common it is here, but man, a lot of these things came up on tonight's, huh?
Bingo.
This one's a little different. Non-conforming use changes. What really came up tonight was extension of not a use, but of a non-conforming structure. But City of Lapeer ordinance allows for, I will say, generally non-conforming uses can't be expanded or it can't be expanded. So if you had a 7-Eleven that was in a district that no longer allows for 7-Eleven, and say they were open till 8, they're not conforming, but they wanted to open till midnight, that would be an expansion of a use that generally is not permitted. But what your ordinance allows is permit a non-conforming use change, and we'll get into the specifics of it as we go, but essentially swapping one non-conforming use for another. But it doesn't talk about non-conforming structures. So there's nothing in your ordinance that would say you are allowed to, if you have a building that exceeds the footprint that's required by 10%, you're not allowed to say, go ahead and make it 25%. That would be like a math-based non-conforming use change. Again, okay, here we go. So this is, we're gonna kind of go backwards here a little bit. Changes in non-conforming legal uses, again, things that can be presented to the ZBA. I just cover some definitional issues here. I think people are generally familiar with the grandfathered idea. Again, with the fence today, there's a couple of different laws that would apply to that building permit and the individuals that built the fence, but the fence can stay. I mean, that's whether we want to call it grandfathered in or reliance or whatever, the fence as it was approved could stay. They have every right to keep that fence. Now, with respect to permitting a use change, which is the issue that could come before the ZBA, you have explicit authority on the ordinance to permit a swapping essentially of a non-conforming use for another, subject to very strict review procedures, which if you ever get one, you need to make sure, and I'm sure the planner would put it in a pamphlet, but you're looking at essentially ordinance section 7-20.08. One of the things to note, look at that, shall approve. So that's not discretionary. If this board makes the findings that are detailed in 20.08, similarity of zoning districts, anticipated and considers anticipated offsite traffic, you have to allow the non-conforming use. It's not discretionary, it's a shall. And you'll see that as you look through the ordinance and the law, may and shall, right? So they're different rights that people have. Hard for me to actually think of an example, maybe a gas station into just a convenience store or something along those lines. But that's something to consider. Variance limitations and lifespans. So now we're gonna be talking about variances. So, number one, use variances are a no-go under the city of Lapeer. Some municipalities allow use variances where I could allow a commercial use in a residential district. Generally, use variances require a 2/3 vote in municipalities where they're allowed. We do not allow that here. That is essentially gonna be the province of the city commission if they wanna make an ordinance change to allow a different use. So you should never get a use variance request because it should stop at the door. We only deal with dimensional variances. Go back. This, came up a little bit today. This is on a dimensional variance and it's a 1-year resubmission ban. So if a variance is denied, the ZBA, I wrote the slide, the ZBA shall not reconsider the same or similar request. What it really says is that someone can't apply. Now, it was touched on earlier, they can make a different request. You had a request today for a 6-foot, you had a request for a 6-foot privacy fence. I would probably tell the planner if someone came and said, can I have a 6-foot chain link fence? I'd probably tell them to put it back before you because I would view that as different. But if, yeah.
Excuse me, while you're
Absolutely.
there, when you said that the rule is the city commission, if we were to get a use variance, what's the process?
I don't think it would ever touch this body
Does it?
because I would send a letter that you don't even have authority. It's not even, there's no authority under the ordinance to even ask for it.
Okay, so variances come to us from the city?
Correct.
The staff
Yes.
and not.
Well, they
the
come
other-
from an applicant through the planning department and then ultimately get placed on the agenda.
Right, so they don't go to any other commission before they come to us?
Correct.
Okay,
So you haven't got the perpetual continuity yet.
Mhm. It's coming.
Okay,
Yep.
then I have a question.
Yep.
So,
Expiration, I don't know if this has come up in the city before. There is an exception to this, that but generally, if you don't if you give a variance for a fence and you haven't put that fence in with a year from the variance, they gotta come back. It's basically good for a year. The exception, and I should have put generally in here, but the exception is if there are other approvals they have to get for like site plans or things like that, then it'll ride along with the site plan approval. Probably not the norm. Perpetual continuity, variance runs with the land. That's how we phrase it in the legal world. So it's not specific to the individual homeowner. Once it's granted, it stays granted and it runs with the land, which actually makes a lot of sense for dimensional variances. If someone's allowed to put a shed within a setback, you're not changing the shed because they sell the property.
so I'm trying to think of a scenario where we would be considering a variance that affects multiple properties simultaneously. So, and then one of the properties sells, the perpetual, we would, yeah, it's my unfamiliarity with it, but.
Okay, I mean, I can try and think of one for you, because again, I keep reciting, but this was the one I had today. There was a development, a site development where all the lots needed a 25-foot variance in order to convince. So then that variance runs with all the lots.
Oh, perpetually.
Perpetual.
Okay.
Yep.
Wait, Mr. Francis.
Yep.
What about, it says it goes with the land, but
Yep.
what if their, shed or, extra building, what if they wanna tear it down and build a new one?
My opinion, they would have to get a new variance. But to be honest, I haven't looked at that issue. Because now they gotta come and get a new permit from the city. The analysis might be a little different when you get here. Because if you had proved, if a variance had been approved in the past, what are the basis to deny it now with respect to the exact same thing? But, you would also, and again, I'm shooting a little from the hip, so I apologize, but if you have, I think there's a difference between demolishing it and abandoning it for some period of time versus taking the fence down and putting a different fence up that sort of matches right away. So I do think you need to start looking about whether things were abandoned and that sort of thing. But to be honest, Ms. Petrie, I'd want that question asked to me if it ever comes, so I can take a look at the specific facts. 5 standards for review, we talked about them. And I'm happy we did, because these are the only things that we really should be considering when we're looking at a non-use variance. I bolded may only approve. It's variances are discretionary, right? You don't have to grant them. You cannot grant them unless you make the determination on all 5 of these factors. Strict compliance with the ordinance, number 1, it's unreasonable or burdensome. So strict compliance with the ordinance would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. So it's your first meeting as chair, but I will take issue with one comment you made tonight. They can use the property for residential purposes. And that's sort of what you're looking at here. So, and they in fact were, and all that.
So I'm trying to remember, I didn't tell them they couldn't use the property for residential purposes, did I?
No, you said they can't, I thought you said, and I could have misheard you under this one, that you believe strict compliance, would make it that would prevent them from using it for a purpose.
Right.
Yeah. So what this is really geared at is you've got a zoning ordinance that says, this is a residential lot, and maybe you have a situation where you like physically can't build a home because of the size of the lot. You can't build a home that meets ADA requirements or something. So I can no longer use it as a residential purpose without a variance, because for whatever reason, the width available for some entryway with the way this lot's constructed, that's sort of what it goes on.
I just want this to be clear, and I'm not gonna usurp your training at all. I really appreciate it. And this is why I was hoping that this would get on the record when we moved, is that I was just wanting the city to know that with respect to what the city has done with its action, it has, and I said that we are forcing the homeowner to now conform to something that we have previously allowed them to do in the same setback area.
No.
And I viewed that could be like, that could be considered unreasonably burdensome to them. Right, that's what I meant.
Yeah, and that's fair. I'm glad you clarified,
Right.
because I don't want going forward. The reality is, if you can use your this isn't on my slide. Most variances should be denied outright. I mean, in fairness, from what you see, most variances, at least that I see, that are brought. Because the reality is if I can do it's not because I would prefer to do something different. It's I can't do something different, and that's really kind of the 30,000 foot way to look at it.
Yep.
Substantial. And now I'm going off cue a little bit.
Sorry about that.
The way, no, it's okay, because that's how I do this better that way than following a script. The reality is, when you see dimensional variances, I would say 90% of the time, I would view them as, do we maybe need to change the ordinance because this just doesn't fit to allow it and not give a variance? That's the way I sort of start looking at it. Number 2, substantial justice. This is a little bit, it's subjective, right? It's not objective. So you're looking at factors that you believe would cause substantial justice for the owners and the neighboring owners, right? And I think the chair, you hit on that, like the part of this ordinance is so that I'm not looking at somebody's fence out in my front yard.
Right.
That I would probably put under 2 and 5. Unique conditions that give rise to the variance request is due to the circumstances unique to the property, not the general conditions of the area. I don't know that I would consider a corner lot unique, and I keep using this as an example because it's convenient, but I don't know that I would consider a corner lot unique. You have them at every corner, right?
Would unique to the property be what I said in that respect? Is it's unique to this property because it's legal non-conforming. So that makes it a unique corner lot.
I could make that stand up if I had to, but I'm not sure that.
All right, very well.
Well, can I?
Yeah.
To my way of thinking, it's unique because you have 2 fronts.
But
Yeah.
there's
Most
lots.
other properties have just one.
So does every house on every corner. Unique would be, in my opinion,
Oh, okay.
unique would be, man, there's a sledding hill. My house is built on top of a sledding hill,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like I'm the only house in the town that's built on top of this hill, and I can't put in this fence because of that. Something like that. So very unique. Again, there's a little play. It's a little subjective about what you deem unique. Yeah.
Would it be unique if there was something that the city had? I know that the fire hydrant would not be there, but I'm just saying if the city had a water hookup or just something that was on their property, would
That's
that be considered?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I have another issue where the right of ways really jump into someone's property, and then in addition to the right of way, the municipality put a transformer and a box for a well station, and like that's not in everybody's right of way, right? That's just, and I think you could say that was unique. It may not, size, shape, topography. I would probably put that under topography and shape. But yeah, I think that something along those lines. Not self-created is a big one though. Problem that resulted in the need for the variance was not created by the current applicant. So I'll example the one we had today, and I'll example the one I had today. The one I had today, the applicant kept saying, well, the lot's flag shaped. The lot is flag shaped, and because of the flag shaped nature, some of these setbacks don't work. My response was, the lot's flag shaped because you came and split it, right? That's that's self-created.
Okay.
In this case that we hear today, in my opinion, and I don't get a vote, me wanting a dog that can jump over a 3.5 foot fence is self-creating this issue. Spirit observed, we've talked about, and I do think Chair's comments about what's the spirit here that hit on it. So public safety, spirit, again, number 5 is kind of a catch-all, but that's something that we can talk about. Permitted actions, again, these are on variances. Approve as requested. It's pretty simple. Approve it as requested. It has to be compliant with all 5 standards. You need 4 votes. Approve with conditions. This is covered under 22.02 E1 through 2 in your ordinance pack. So the board actually has the ability to put conditions on for public capacity, ensure public capacity services, natural resources, neighborhood compatibility. I think, in my opinion, if we're going to talk about approving with conditions, this is something that should probably be brought up with my office or the planner before, because there has to be a reasonable compatibility to the cost of those conditions with respect to what's going on. So if we think that is something that's in play, it's probably good to do a little more digging as to how we're going to phrase those. Approve or lesser variance. We won't allow you, you're asking for a 10-yard setback instead of 20, but we'll give you 15 or something along those lines. So you're trying to approve, if you believe all factors are met, you're approving the variance that will meet all factors, and that is the least amount of variance you can do.
So I think with respect to approving a lesser variance, I think that's the direction that you were trying to go with. Well, maybe it could be a non-privacy fence, but still contain the dog. That we were looking at that, but
I think in 100% you were. I think on this one you had a hard time qualifying with all 5 factors to be able to get. Because again, this isn't, well, if we meet 3 of the 5, we can then approve a lesser variance. This is, you got to meet all 5.
I'm sorry, I have
No,
another
you're fine.
question
No,
when
no
you're
problem.
done your
You're good.
thought. When that came up, would this be something where as a member, I would talk to the chair and then the chair would approach you about it if something like that were to come up?
Yeah, I mean, that's a
Or
fair
it
way to
doesn't
do it.
matter.
If you got planners here who could probably help you. I really don't. The lesser approved one, I'm not as concerned about as the approved with conditions. Lesser approved is pretty simple.
No, that's,
yeah.
approve with conditions was the one.
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
question came to mind for me, and just thinking, so the proper chain of command to follow through would be through Wes, and then the city planner.
I would think, and I don't have much, I haven't dealt with your planning consultant before. My guess is if he felt conditions were appropriate, there may be a reference in the package. And they can contact me, but yeah, if you believe you're gonna have that issue, you could communicate that with the chair and they
Okay.
get back to me.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Deny request. If the application doesn't meet all 5 standards, it must be denied. That's back to the 1-year restriction on if it's denied from submitting the same or a similar one. This next slide, just a little bit, there's some signage language. Does anyone know, do we get a lot of signage variance requests? I wouldn't imagine that they're terribly, okay.
I may have said on one.
Yeah, we can circle back, but this is just a chart that talks about
Just the gas station,
comparing the two different requests.
but not
Correct.
content.
No.
In the past, I think for the planning commission, it came up where we had to revise, when we were looking forward,
Yeah,
that was an issue
Yeah, and
with
so-
electric signs versus.
I'm glad
silicon
you
signs.
brought that up because that's actually the planning commission's role. It's odd because you would think with the name of this being the zoning board of appeals that this board would be required to be involved in ordinance prep, and it's not. Right? You're literally the court in charge of what hearing appeals on what other people have adopted as legislation.
Can the ZBA make suggestions for, for example, in this case? That, let's say that we wanted to say, hey, because of what has transpired tonight, let's take a look at figure 15-2 and maybe clarify what a rear yard is and, make it more explicit. Are we allowed to make suggestions?
There's really no basis for you to do that aside from making comments on the record and
Very well.
getting back to the administration.
Thank you.
Yep. So the next one, we talked about variances. The next one, appeal of administrative decisions. This is the one I talked about before of building official or department tells somebody they can not do something when they think they should be able to. And so then that decision is appealed. So the ZBA is authorized to hear or decide appeals from any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by an administrative official or body charged with enforcing the zoning ordinance. This includes interpretations of code text, boundaries, building official notices, zoning administrative rulings. Kind of a pretty big gamut. It's hard to even cover what might come to you with that, but it does happen. I've seen it happen. The one I can think of, I saw a permit denied for a resident migrant camp because the building department determined that was not permissible within that district, and so then they appealed that decision. You have something very similar to what had happened today, it's just in a different format. Appeals must be jurisdictionally, they must be filed with the planning department. It's actually a little bit more to that. Copies have to be sent to ZBA too, but the filing takes place with the planning department within 30 days of the action that they're appealing. Stay. So so under this one, if a stay applies unless the building official determines that it can't because of fear of safety or threat to property or imminent peril. So that really would come up if an active determination was made. So there's a determination made, man, you gotta tear down the house. I'm just throwing out an example. And so that's an affirmative act that somebody's gonna have to do. And it would be stayed, meaning they wouldn't have to do it pending the appeal unless somebody comes out and says, yeah, if you don't do it, it's gonna fall on the sidewalk and kill somebody. It's an imminent danger. So you could talk in that situation about an expedited appeal, but as a rule, the determination stayed until this body makes a decision. So options for appeals of administrative decisions: reverse or affirm, wholly or partly, the order. You have a little bit more leeway here. You have the explicit power to modify the decision to correct errors and match the true intent of the zoning ordinance. And importantly, you step into the shoes of the official. So you can you could change the order. You could do anything that official could have done in making the order. This body can do when affirming or modifying or reversing.
Mr. Francis,
Yes.
can I just clarify, so for tonight.
Yep.
This body could have said, we need you to tear your fence down
No.
to comply.
No, because that wasn't here tonight. The
Oh,
only request here tonight was the variance approving the fence. And in fact, I might have jumped up and said no. So just for everybody's knowledge, there's a case. I think it was Douglas Township. I'm not certain. It was an unpublished case, and in that case, the city had wrongfully approved a building permit for a home. Developer went and started building a home, got a decent amount into it, and they hit it with a stop work order. There was no dispute, should have never been approved. It wasn't okay. So they hit him with a stop work order. He sued for a taking. He said, "You've given me this permit, I've relied upon it and started building this house," and he won. So once you have action on the other side of the permit, like if it had been, if this person came in at noon and they got the fence permit, and at 12:15, as they're walking out the door, somebody said, "Oh, wait, that was a mistake," and call them, then you can stop it. But once they've relied, they've gone and bought the fencing, started putting it up. And if you try and take it away, it's a taking. And my suggestion is that case, you don't want the taking, you would just rather have the fence.
Not looking to be punitive, but to not have to go through something like this again,
Mhm.
where there was an error somewhere in the process.
Mhm.
Is there some action we can take to find out where and make a correction so that we're not looking at something like this again?
No,
Because somewhere along the line, somebody
Yep.
didn't do their due diligence in performing their role.
I think that the error in this case has been accurately or affirmatively communicated to the people who made it. But no, this body doesn't have the ability to order anybody sort of within the city to do anything that isn't before the body.
Okay, but can we make a recommendation somewhere? Or you're saying you've been assured or somehow there's something
I know
out
that
there.
this one, I was not involved in this at all, and yet I knew about this issue before I got here. So I'm telling you that this one in particular, that it is known. Now, I don't know what's occurring, but I mean, errors happen.
Yeah, I don't mean I'm not looking for,
No.
but
Yeah.
I just don't want us to have to, this was not fun, especially for a first one,
No,
but,
I agree with, is it Coltier?
Here it's Cloutier, away it's Cloutier.
I'm gonna go with the way. I do tend to agree with Mr. Cloutier. It was a separate issue, and I made the point here. They were actually told, you can only go this far. You gotta come to this body for anything else. So the mistake was capped somewhat,
Yeah.
but they were never promised that they could go any further than the line that they went.
We'll say
but
that's,
still, that was non-conforming. I mean, that was
Correct,
against the rules to begin with.
correct. This should have been a variance, 100%.
Yeah, but so what assurances are that kind of a error won't happen again?
You don't have, nobody can guarantee you'll never get another error. I mean, it's the way businesses work. You hope that the person that was in charge of the fence permits this time will realize, and again, it was a corner lot. I actually learned Mr. Weber going through it. It was very helpful to me. But it's a corner lot. It's probably not a request they get every day, and a mistake was made, and
Okay.
I will say that's probably one of the reasons that the ZBA exists, is because
yeah.
mistakes, that's what we're supposed to help, remediate.
Reviewing administrative.
Sorry.
I never got an official, how do I pronounce your last name?
Actually, it's Cloutier.
That's why I addressed you as
Yeah.
Brian earlier, sorry.
When I travel broader Canada, it is Cloutier is the proper pronunciation, but we're Americanized.
Okay.
Back.
What would have, no, you don't have to turn anything
Okay.
back. What would have, in my opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, what would have made this evening's issuance different is had the nonconformity not been properly permitted.
Yeah.
Then this board could have had jurisdictional authority to have them take it down. Is that correct?
No. Well, maybe ultimately in that situation, because that wasn't before you.
I understand that.
In
but-
that situation, the city could have directed they take it down. They could have then appealed that determination to the
It would have
board.
come here through appeal,
Correct.
and then at that point, that would have stood.
Correct.
That's where I was going,
Yep.
you just put it in better words.
Yep, absolutely. But what I'll say, sua sponte on its own, this board couldn't do it. It would have to be
Correct.
presented in a way. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So these are some guidelines when you're reviewing, again, we're not on to the administrative decisions beyond the variances, some guidelines for reviewing these. You're looking at the plain meaning of the text. This is just a, did you get a handout? Okay, this is a general sort of legal principle. If the text is clear and unambiguous and speaks for itself, you apply the text to be clear and ambiguous and speaks for itself. You can't read sort of ambiguity into a text if it doesn't exist. So when you're reviewing whatever the administrative decision that was made, if it's clearly supported by the ordinance or the code that they were applying, that's almost where the inquiry stops right there. Factual correctness, analyze if the administrative official made an error. So maybe in the case we're talking about today, so an error with respect to he or she miscalculated the setbacks or misapplied an ordinance provision. Legislative intent, back to the ambiguity issue. So if the ordinance could be read theoretically one of two different ways, then you sort of look at the intent. You can look to other documents, look within the zoning district itself, look at the master plan, look at what the overall purpose was. And I think Mr. Weber, Chair Weber's comments about not seeing a fence out of your front door, that would touch on that with respect to administrative decisions. Authority and precedence. So confirm that the administrative officer whose decision you're appealing was acting within the scope of the authority. Is this something the administrator officer had the authority to do or not to do? Past ZBA interpretations are binding upon the city. So if you're asked to interpret a code provision, if you determine that the setback is 20 feet, not 25 feet, that's binding on the city. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
ZBA decisions, mandates, and voting rules. Entire membership rule is unique. I had to look this up while we were sitting here today because I'd forgotten that we did not have all 6 members appointed, but the vacancy doesn't change the rule. So 4 members required to approve a variance or to reverse an administrative decision. So they're both sort of affirmative grants of relief, even though this is reversing, because when someone's here before you challenging administrative decision, the affirmative action they're asking you to take is to reverse the decision. If someone's here on a variance, the affirmative action they're asking you to take is to grant the variance. Need 4 members. Ms. Petrie, we don't have alternates, do we either? I don't think.
I don't think so.
Okay. We can, but what you'll see sometimes, and I practice both sides of the fence, so I've done this myself, is if I have a client with a variance that is, a little bit of a hot button issue, and there's 6 members on the board, but only 4 are gonna be there, I say, we need to put this off to a meeting where I know I'm gonna have more people. So don't be surprised if that's a request. It's the applicant's right to do that. They have the right to try and get the most votes that they can possibly get. But that's why that would happen at some point in time, because it's not like other things where it's passing the minutes where it's just a majority of those here.
So, Counselor, for clarity,
Yeah.
we do have alternates, they're just not seated right now. So we have 2 vacancies,
2 vacancies. We
And
have alternates. just
alternates
they're
are not
filled.
seated as well. Yeah.
You should make when you have variances on, I think it's reasonable to make an effort to try and get the alternate here so that they can sit in the spot of somebody who's not
Yeah,
present.
we just don't have. We have spots.
There's not.
Yeah.
Oh, there's nobody on them, okay.
You got a 60-day window. I've never anticipating the question of what happens if we breach that window. I don't know. I've never seen it breached. But unless a longer extension is formally agreed. So 60 days from a complete application. A lot of times, in my experience, especially when you're dealing with complex variances or variances that might be multi-stage, like there's multiple variances that are required, the applicant will be pretty cooperative in getting this scheduled, even after the 60 days. This is a big one for me. Findings and discussions rule. So the motion tonight was great because it did this and I didn't have to jump in. Strictly required to state the basis for every decision. Mr. Weber alluded to this. They have a right to know what the basis for decision is. right to know is great. That is 100% accurate. I'm more concerned with, can I tell the judge what the basis for the decision is? And the basis is solely going to be what's made on the record. So findings of fact and exactly how they relate to the ordinance can be used. I don't have an issue with saying, even if we're general, and you'll be surprised, sometimes you don't see this, but I don't have an issue with saying, you know, these are the factors and for the reasons identified in the planner's report, like if we're going to adopt that. But what you can't do is say, I move we deny the variance, vote yes, and then we all go.
So that's why I wanted more discussion before we moved. And that's why I was, in this case, it was good that it wasn't seconded immediately, because we were still trying to get our bearings on how the fact that it was legal non-compliant, that the fact it was legal non-conforming, and legal non-conforming not being in the packet. So, I mean, I had to get my bearings there, and it was good that we had time to discuss it, and the applicant also got to see us working it out, right?
Yep.
I think that's fair for the resident.
And I may have this on a slide coming up, but it fits better here. The standard on review is if a variance is challenged, an aggrieved party, so in this case, the applicant would be an aggrieved party, they could file a circuit court of appeal challenge. So I have to prove that it was granted it was proper procedure. So had the public hearing, all the notices were required, they had the opportunity to talk, to due process stuff, that was fine. And then it's supported by substantial competent material evidence on the record. So what we do, there's no retrial of it, so to speak. We compile what's called a record on appeal. That would include the minutes. It would include the correspondence that was part. It would include the agenda packet. These are videoed. Since we've started having these videoed in the last 10 years, I'll generally include a YouTube link in case the judge wants to watch the video. A lot of times I've seen municipalities and ZBAs not be real clear like the motion was tonight, but there will be a lot of discussion. So I've had to sort of parse my reasons based on the discussion, which I can do, but it's a lot cleaner when there's a motion. What will happen, and it's not uncommon, if a court says, okay, the board denied the request, but I don't really know why they denied it. The court won't reverse your decision. They'll just send it back to do it over again. And you can tell us why you denied the request. So that's a specific option for the court, and it's common. It happens because, you know, there's lots of zoning boards of appeals and lots of things where there's just, it's difficult to always follow. So let's see. Yeah.
Sure.
No, you're fine.
So it seemed like a good rule of thumb would be to follow it through initially, so you don't have to go backtrack.
Wait.
So from what you're saying, everyone we hear, they should have an understanding before they leave here why it was denied.
Yeah, so, and this wasn't on the slide, I agree, at some point, so you don't have to make the decision tonight, we have that 60-day window, you have to hold the public hearing, and you held the hearing, you could, if you have time left, or if the applicant agrees, the decision can be made at another day without having to do another public hearing. It's an open public meeting, and there'll be public comment, but it doesn't have to be made today, but the applicant, if you're denying, needs to know why it's denied. Not so much for the applicant, but for the judge who will have to hear the appeal.
Okay.
He needs to know, based on those 5 factors, how did you make that decision? And so when I said it has to be supported by competent material and substantial evidence on the record, that isn't like beyond a reasonable doubt. And the judge is not allowed to substitute his belief versus your belief. We just need to be able to say, well, it's self-created. Well, why is it self-created? Because they choose to have a dog or whatever. I mean, but as long as that's part of the record, we're covered. And the judge is not going to be in the business of replacing his opinion for yours. But yes, it does need to be clear. Candidly, if you approve the variance, it probably doesn't matter. Although the approval is suggesting that you have found all 5 versions, or probably 5 standards.
Excuse me, Mr. Francis, so you say we have 60 days, so then would there have been a motion made tonight to postpone
There
the
could have been.
decision?
Yeah, there could have been.
And then we have to give a reason.
It
for
is,
postponing?
yeah, it is normal. I don't want to suggest anything other than it is customary to vote at the public hearing. I'm just telling you it's not a requirement.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, if we were in a dilemma or we needed more information or whatever, would we have made a motion to postpone.
Yeah.
For a time period or next meeting.
I
How
would
how that-
select next meeting and I would state a reason, to review, building permits that were granted, if that was something that deemed relevant. I would say 99% of them are voted on the meeting they're at. Though.
Right.
It would be atypical to do it.
What would be a reason to postpone?
Somebody shows up and says, you asked me a question about this architectural drawing and I'm gonna get you an answer. I don't have it with me, but I'm gonna have my architect write you a letter and I would like to supplement it that way.
Okay.
So public hearing, that's step one, well, actually, sub one is application. You go to public hearing, so the city administration takes care of the notices, I indicated 300 feet. I've seen a lot of, in particular, planning commission, meetings talk about, why didn't you tell everybody? Well, we notify who we're required to under law and we publish it, so. Fact finding, identify physical facts of the property on the record, that happened tonight. Financial issues from physical hardships, so because something might be expensive isn't necessarily a reason for a variance, or because there might be a cheaper option with a variance, so gotta try and separate. A lot of times there are financial issues, it wasn't really one tonight, but you need to make sure you're understanding that sort of thing. In that realm, again, back to the one I had today, they wanted more density because it made the development more profitable. Well, that's not a basis for a variance. Apply the standards, so evaluate the facts that you're presented on the record against the ordinance. Formulate a clear motion which occurred tonight, specific findings of fact, and vote and resolve. I'm gonna keep hammering on this because it's coming up in another slide, but it does have to be based on the record that's here today. It can't be based on things that I can't pull from this meeting and provide to the judge, right? So if you think if it's important, say it. They can't come back after and take affidavits from you about what we were really thinking when we were making the motion. Quasi judicial, again, the purpose of the public hearing, general purpose is to get input from the public, gather physical objective facts about the property and its direct impact on the neighborhood. Not a popularity contest. Could have had everybody in the neighborhood tell you that you should allow these people to have a fence because they're the nicest people in the world and they run a nonprofit for dogs and they save everything. It's not a basis for a variance. Although it's great, I would have my clients submit to you every letter you can because it's certainly helpful, but it's not a basis to grant. Due process ensures that affected property owners have a constitutional transparent right to be heard on the record. Again, so I would tend to give leeway to an applicant to talk as much as they wanted during a variance request, because I don't really want to be talking to a judge and say, well, they only gave me 3 minutes and I really, in my 4th minute, I was going to really bring it home. I'd rather err on the side of, you got something to say, come up and say it. And there was a little give and take here, which is different than the meetings we're normally at. I don't have any issue with that. You got somebody with a property right at stake. If somebody's getting up and saying, they have a Doberman, but it's wrong, I would give them every right to say, no, it's not a Doberman.
So I appreciate all of the back and forth with respect to point of inquiry, just so that this ran smoothly. But what is proper decorum in this regard at a public hearing? So are we allowed to engage with them as we did? It wasn't improper, was it?
No, not at all. It's unique. The public hearing, I would not make a practice of engaging with the public. I don't have a problem closing the hearing, engaging with the applicant and your planner.
Okay,
Those are the people with a vested stake in it. And you can communicate, you've heard members of the public talk about X, Y, and Z. Do you want to have an opportunity to respond to it? That's perfectly fine.
the applicant's free to speak during public comment as any other member of the public is. The public is free to speak. Once we close that and we close the public hearing, which is what that is, then we can engage with the applicant as much as we feel we need to.
I have no issue with that.
Very well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's healthy,
Yeah.
especially in a circumstance like this. You gotta have that dialogue with them.
And
Because
the
through
way I
that
think,
dialogue, you can flesh stuff out.
yeah, the way I would view it is the public hearings for almost everybody but the applicant. The applicant is the one, and you're having a back and forth discussion. Let them make their arguments. Let them correct anything that's wrong. let them state whatever they have to say. So that you guys, I mean, your goal is to make an informed decision, and that'll help you. At some point, it stops, right? At some point, it becomes repetitive. But the proper way, I guess, procedurally would be for the chair to say, you know, do you have anything else you'd like to say after public comment? Or, you know, we'll give you one more shot at the end, or however you want to handle that is a fine way to do it. Completely proper.
But, other people that were here for the public hearing do not get to speak
Correct.
out or
Correct.
correct them or add.
Correct.
Okay,
This is a discussion with them about their application.
okay.
Yep, absolutely. Do you have one? Oh, perfect. Best practices for the chair, enforce structured limit, and this is, again, I'm trying to differentiate here a little bit between the public and the applicant. Structured time limit for the public hearing. It's different. I talked about this in the beginning. The public hearing is for this variance request only. The public comment that occurred before is generally for anything people want to talk about. Factual integration, integrate any relative and credible factual claims brought up by the public into the board's official findings and fact record of decision. I can't really think of anything that would happen today, but sometimes you see parking request variances or traffic in parking is a big issue for variance. So if you had a member of the public get up and say, look, I did a traffic count last Monday through Friday, and there were this many cars that came through, and this is only gonna make it worse. You're gonna wanna sort of incorporate what they've said into part of the record, to the best you can.
While you're there, so I just wanna make sure I understand.
Mhm.
The public comment section,
Mhm.
even for us, there's a time limit. It's the public hearing that you allow people to speak as long.
You can cap the public out at the hearing too. I wouldn't
Okay.
cap the applicant out, well, until it gets
Okay.
overly repetitive, but with their back and forth after the hearing, I would engage pretty thoroughly with that.
But during the public hearing part,
Yep.
any public speaking, you still
You
would
can
wanna
limit.
cap the time.
Yep.
Okay.
May I ask, would this board be 3 minutes like the commission is?
Is that what is
Does
in the
that make
proposed
sense?
bylaws? Is it 3 minutes? I believe so.
I think so.
It's gonna be
Okay.
part of the bylaws that you vote on.
Okay,
next time.
no, that's okay. I was just curious more than anything.
That's a fair question.
Yep.
Okay, 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Covered some of this, judicial standard, any person aggrieved by a ZBA decision may appeal to circuit court. To survive review, it must be proper procedure and based on competent material and substantial evidence on the record as a whole. I wanna talk about this, I didn't include this in the slide, because I don't know who's gonna get a handle of these, but, you work here, right? You work here?
I worked with.
Yeah, so I was making sure I was not. I know this is public, but I want to make a comment about this aggrieved person thing. So clearly, an applicant who's denied is an aggrieved person, okay? Now, if you would have granted the variance, many people up here would think, well, the neighbors, they're aggrieved. They're probably not. It is a very difficult thing to meet the standard of an aggrieved person as a neighbor. You have to have special, unique damages caused by the variance that are not by everybody else. So the reality is, if you grant a variance, it's likely standing, and it's very difficult for anybody to appeal, just in practical terms. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's very difficult.
That should actually posture us in to have more humility with respect to what we grant,
Yeah,
because it's
Yeah.
very difficult to appeal it.
I can't tell the people who you were talking about that will be looking at this fence, I can't tell them with reasonable certainty you'll even have standing to appeal.
Very well.
On the record, fact standard reason is not spoken aloud, formally introduced or written in the record, it does not legally apply, so that's why I need to find it somewhere in the discussion or the motion to be able to support, the finding. Findings of fact, every decision, detailed findings, I don't care if it's by reference, to planners or other things, I don't need them specifically read. I think you get the point. I need something to be able to tell the court, this is clearly what they voted on. This has come up a little bit, ex parte contact. This is a due process issue. I'm not gonna sit up here and tell anybody they waived their First Amendment rights to speak, outside of this hearing. You can cause appealable issues if we're making comments outside of the hearing that show bias towards a matter that is before the ZBA. Not a lot of matters come before the ZBA, but matters that come before the ZBA, the reason being is that the applicant has every right to know what is being discussed about their application and the reasons that are being denied. And if we go find public comments that are made by board members outside of this meeting that talk about decisions or not decisions, about their opinions about things, you lead right into this argument that they were biased and they weren't impartial. So they have every right for this board to be impartial, and you have to make the decision based on what's on the record. So if you're making it on other stuff, or if they can at least claim you're making other stuff, I don't like to give people the talking points. And that goes for city commissions or other boards too. So predetermination argument, making those comments can be used to argue the case was decided before the hearing. Applicant has the right to an impartial hearing. So that's my concern with it. It happens. I understand that it happens, but my job is to try and protect the decision that you make. So when you make the decision, make it based on things that are stated here, and don't indicate to anybody that you might have a bias about the decision before you walk in. Again, because it has to be based on the record that's here. Look at that. I got through it.
All right, thank you.
Now, any questions? Any more?
Would there be any said things that would create a bias for us for
What's
an
that?
issue?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part.
Would there be any, like, non-obvious, like if you were a relative of the property owner?
Oh, like, yeah, so that would say, yeah, direct relative would be a conflict, financial interests or a conflict.
So it'd
but-
be pretty blatant.
Yeah,
if it
but
was- Okay,
in my opinion, owning property near it is not a conflict unless you have a direct or even an indirect financial interest. So spouse or daughter, maybe they have a contract with Steve's fencing company and Steve is my brother. And if you approve this variance, he's gonna get to build the fence. That's probably a conflict. But if Steve's my brother and they might hire Steve or have him reach out to Steve, that's not a conflict. You know, it's what needs to happen is if you think there is one, or you think there might be one, it needs to be disclosed at the very, very front before we're even into the public hearing part, so that this body can make a determination about whether there is a conflict. If you have one, it's not just that you don't vote, it's that you don't participate in the hearing, you don't participate in the motion making or the commentary. And that's sometimes difficult because I've seen it where people will have a conflict and then they sit through an hour of public comment and man, they feel like they really need to stay, but you're done. You're hands down and you're just waiting it out at that point in time.
That being said too, and please correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. If you have a perceived conflict, I'm using the words carefully. If you have a perceived conflict, it does not justify necessarily a conflict.
Correct,
The body decides if there's a conflict.
correct.
So when I often see boards and commissions and things of that nature say, well, I can't vote on this because I have a conflict of interest. No, the board will decide if you have a conflict of interest. It's not an automatic out,
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct. You see, I see it a lot at planning commission. Well, I live within 300 feet, so I can't really rule on this rezoning request. Well, the whole idea is that we have people who live in the community. I mean, it's part of the deal now. So that's, I agree 100%. You state what it is, and there are certain obvious ones, right? Like it's mine or it's my son's. You know, it's my son's variance request. Those are easy ones. But I think a lot of times people think there's a conflict. I think that's what you're getting at, and there probably isn't. It's probably no more of a conflict than just what the general public has. You know.
What if one of us, just a what if scenario, this is brief, lived on an adjacent property that was about to be developed? Okay, and let's just say that was a chance. Would that be a situation where you'd recuse yourself if something came before the ZBA?
That situation, I would say no. I would look more to comments that have been made in the public about whether we've demonstrated a bias. or-
Very well, yeah, I will. And
Does that answer your question?
I think that could be substantiated, sure. So we're closed with the
And again,
training?
yeah, the goal is to protect the ultimate decision, right?
Very,
And
yes,
so you want to remove as many of those darts that they can fire at the court as you possibly can.
so I really appreciate it. This
Oh.
was very timely. And is there any other questions? we
Might have been
have?
timely like an hour ago. but-
Yeah.
Yeah. If we
No.
can get this first, baby.
I was just gonna
I mean, with
say-
respect to the fact
No,
that
yeah.
we haven't met in a year and it was just really good, so.
Obviously, there are questions that come up and I wasn't trying to cover everything, so anything that comes up, I don't know how to work this anymore. Anything that comes up, you know where to find us. And
Thank you. We have a question
I
here.
do have a question.
Yeah.
In the past, at least my experience here, has been that our legal counsel hasn't been here.
Correct.
I have really appreciated you being here, and is that gonna be the precedent moving forward? I'm
No,
asking the
I
commissioner.
have not been, oh, sorry.
Or were you just here for this
I
presentation?
was here for this.
For the training.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said when I
Was
walked
there a
out.
reason why we
I was
can't?
gonna
get
say,
him in?
I rather have him, I enjoy him being here.
I
So,
like you being.
But
I
anyway,
think it's a good.
I think this one's a good one for him to be at.
I do too. I think planning is,
yes, I would agree with.
Yeah,
that,
I
too.
mean,
I don't know.
I
You
mean,
guys-
that's up to the commission, I guess, but I'm just suggesting Commissioner Petrie.
I would second that request.
so
Anyway.
we can talk about that.
Another
We
time.
are,
We're only
Another
meeting-
time.
We're
So,
only meeting once a
maybe,
year.
maybe,
Right.
once a year is not a problem.
are there any more questions with respect to the training? Okay, so we're at our last agenda item, adjournment, and I will just say briefly, I'd like to make a motion to make a brief comment to thank the staff. So am I allowed to do that? Yes. I will say that I
I'm
came,
not gonna tell you no.
I came into the office. I came into the office today and I met with several of you, and it was very helpful. I will say, Mr. Burkhalter, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong more than once, but I will say that when there's something as significant as a legal non-conforming property, if you could just make sure it would get in the packet for us, it would have been really helpful for me because I spent a lot of time making sure that that was right. I suppose it made me more familiar with the fence ordinance in the long run, so it was a good thing. But I thank you for all the work that you put into it. It was this was a good first meeting, and I'm gonna work hard to get up to speed with respect to how these rules should run. I won't have to ask as many point of inquiries on the next time. And I won't accidentally read as an agenda item a suggested motion as I did at the beginning.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question before you adjourn?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a next regularly scheduled meeting?
There is nothing that I have been given that there is a next regularly scheduled meeting.
I thought we have
Very
another
well.
one coming up. I
At the
thought I heard
train
that rumor.
depot, because we have
I-
early voting in August.
I would ask, because the time period for appeals, not meeting, the time period for appeals is, triggered based on the approval of the minutes of the ZBA or upon a written letter from, administration denying the variance. So, maybe.
We should have a short follow-up.
So
No,
do-
I don't even need it. If we could just maybe direct by consensus administration to send a letter stating the reasons for the denial, just so we can start that clock running.
Oh,
So I make a motion that we direct Sam or Ally, whoever, to notify by mail the applicant with the reasons for our denial.
And I haven't, to be honest, checked to see if that standard's changed. It used to be the standard. But I think that that's a good practice because then we're starting that clock running. Otherwise, it doesn't really apply. If you didn't have another meeting for a year, I mean, their right to appeal hangs out there forever. So, thank you.
shouldn't we?
Um,
I second the motion that Melissa has made, and
About the bylaws,
And then
shouldn't
we-
we have a follow-up
We need to vote.
sooner
that
than
first.
later?
We have to vote first.
sorry, we have to vote on the motion.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
No worries. So,
We'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
so we have a motion that Commissioner Petrie has made that we will.
Direct Sam or Ally to notify the applicant tonight of the denial and the reasons.
And your motion has been seconded. Point of inquiry, who is going to communicate this? How is it gonna be done? So,
Administration should be.
Very well.
administration.
Staff.
very well,
If they need the chair's signature, they'll get it.
very well. So we have, okay, then good. We have a motion, we have a second, and we're gonna, is there any discussion? Very well, so we will take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Very well, motion carries.
Should we have a meeting at some point, not like wait for 3 months or whatever, to review the bylaws and approve them?
So we do have a meeting scheduled for next month. It'll be Monday, July 27th.
Okay.
And
27.
Yes, the 27th, and due to the early voting taking place here at City Hall, it will be located at the train depot.
Very well, so, and we'll get that, we'll get the agenda for that and all of that will be, that, excellent. So, is there any other discussions or should we adjourn? I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. So, very well.
Hey, wait for me before you go down the stairs, will you? 'Cause it's gonna be a little tricky. Going down, I'm gonna be using the weak arm on the ramp. So,
Until I can put the ramp up, I certainly could.
no, I don't wanna, I feel